Hello and welcome to the Bothering Strangers podcast. My guest today has been in a lot of places. He's been on America's Got Talent. He's been a cast member for many years on Wild and Out, and he's done some roasting. My guest today is comedian Jacob Williams. Jacob, how's it going?
Good, good. How's it going? Thanks for having me.
No problem. So, first of all, happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
I know I missed that a couple of days ago. It's okay.
Um, I wanted to celebrate by coming on this podcast. This is
Thank you.
the only birthday thing I scheduled was to do this podcast. So
Such an odd gift.
it's my it's actually my biggest birthday event ever. Usually it's just me alone, but one other person. This is the most people I've been around on my birthday, so this is a big year for me.
Oh man, jeez, that's something else. So let's talk about you were in 2011. You were on America's Got Talent. You were a semifinalist, actually. So how did that? What do you think that did for your career? Like after that, because you soon got on Wild and Out.
Oh yeah, America's Got Talent. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I think it was like 2012 maybe, but it was yeah, it was a great experience. Before that, I was doing comedy for about 5 years or so, and I started out in like a small town in Wisconsin where I was going to college, and just started doing like open mics there, and just kind of got really obsessed with comedy and just wanted to do it wherever I could. I mean, there wasn't a ton of stage time there, but I ended up like going to Chicago for a while during college and taking classes there instead of studying abroad, taking classes there for a while, and then being able to do more stand up there because they had a lot going on there comedy wise. And yeah, so I just got super into it. And then I think about a year after college, I did America's Got Talent. I was living in Chicago, and I was doing like starting to do some gigs here and there on the road, but occasionally I was also doing like I did a lot of different part-time jobs throughout college and after for that year of working as a temp and different things. Um, but yeah, I think I just sent in a video, and for whatever reason, there was this like really great club in Madison, Wisconsin that the audiences are just amazing, and so I think I had a clip from that they liked, and so they gave me the chance to like fly in and do the show in front of the judges. And it was kind of crazy actually because it was in St. Louis, and I was really nervous because I had never done anything on TV or anything, and really wanted to like practice the set the night before on a show, but I didn't really know anyone at the time in St. Louis who I could like reach out to about doing a show. So I ended up like going up to actually like random strangers on the street then, and I'm like super shy, especially even more so then. And but I was like so desperate to like run this material past someone in person to
Yeah.
like get the timing down with someone watching. And so I would just like walk up to people near the St. Louis Arch and be like, hey, like I'm auditioning for America's Got Talent. Is it cool if I run like this like 90 seconds of jokes past you just to like test it out? And they'd be like, no, that's weird, get away from me. But then I think there were like a couple different security guards I ran into who like listened to it because they had nowhere else to go. And then there was like someone smoking outside of a hotel who I think listened to it. And I don't think any of them were super enthusiastic about it, but it was nice to at least run it past someone in person. And then I think I called like a friend from college and like told the jokes to him over the phone. So the first one ended up going really well, and it was yeah, a good experience overall. I think I did like 4 different performances on there, and it was fun. I mean, I think that was after that I was able to do comedy full time, although it was partly because I had just like a really super cheap apartment that was like kind of out of the way in Chicago, and then just was only spending like a few dollars a day. Like I would literally every meal I would make like a $1 microwavable pizza, and it was probably super unhealthy. But so I didn't like have a lot of expenses, but I was like so happy to just start doing comedy full time after that, and like doing slightly more road gigs and stuff. And then it slowly it gotten a little better since then, but it's always like kind of a up and down thing at moments where you're like there's definitely plenty of times where you're not sure where the next gig is going to be or whatever. But overall it's gotten better and better. It's like I'm excited to just see what happens next. It's definitely an interesting time now for comedy, and I hope it's still able to happen. But now there's a lot of outdoor shows and Zoom shows and people doing new things like that. So anyway, so yeah, that was pretty much my the beginning of my America's Got Talent experience.
I always find it interesting when like people like yourself, you talk about being like a full-time comic, and it's like that means like a lot of times it's like you, where it's like you're technically it's like full-time, but you're like just doing like living like the most like the cheapest lifestyle possible. But sometimes people like really do live like high-end lifestyles.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I definitely wasn't living a high-end lifestyle at the time or now, but over time, yeah, it's definitely gotten a little better, more consistent in terms of making more money and stuff. But at the same time, it is like I never take it for granted because I'm still kind of in some ways living gig to gig. I can like save up money and stuff when I have good gigs, but at the same time, like there's never a guarantee that any one thing will keep happening. And so, yeah, I feel like a lot like show business or comedy or a lot of things like jobs like that are just kind of I guess they call it like feast or famine, where like sometimes it goes really well and sometimes it doesn't. So you just kind of have to enjoy when it's going well and then not take it for granted and then try to prepare for when if there's like times when it slows down, which it's definitely slowed down for me plenty of times. So so yeah, I'm yeah, just trying to I just try to like write every day and perform as much as I can. But yeah, I still feel like there's a lot of stuff I'm still trying to figure out with it, and it's definitely a learning experience at every step of the way.
What about right now? I mean, for like you're in New York for a while, there were no in-person shows. Like, wouldn't you? I mean, this I would imagine is like the ultimate famine.
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean that was definitely tough, just even socially and emotionally and stuff. Because um, yeah, I mean, even just I ended up like having so many friends I would see just by hanging out at a comedy club. Like even if I wasn't performing, um, that can be a lot of fun, and then often will lead to, if you that could often lead to other things, but and leading to other shows. I don't know. Anyway, but yeah, I missed a lot that social element. I did end up like I think the first day of the lockdown, I ended up like doing like a Zoom thing and then doing that like a bunch of days in a row, and so I feel like that definitely helped to like have outlets like Zoom in place. It definitely wasn't the same as real comedy, but I was able to like keep writing and like testing stuff out on there. Although like you know sometimes stuff that works on there won't necessarily work at live shows and vice versa. And there's like definitely um, some tough Zoom shows. I did one where like I think I've done a few like uh, college gigs on Zoom now, and it's usually super fun. But there was this one that was a little awkward where this one guy was muted, and I think he accidentally unmuted himself, and his friend was asking him what he was watching, and he's like, "Oh, it's the corny white guy from Wild and Out," and his friend's like, "Is it funny?" He's like, "It's kind of funny," and I just had to be like, "The corny white guy from Wild and Out can hear you right now," but it felt like I was watching like a YouTube comment and like hearing
In
it
real
live or
life.
something. So so that was awkward. I've had plenty of awkward. One of my first shows got Zoom bombed, and people were my parents were in the audience, and it was there was like someone I think just like showing porn or pictures of porn and like just like writing inappropriate things in the chat, and that was kind of annoying. But I figured out how to kick them out, and since then I've been like way more careful about who gets the Zoom link and everything, and it hasn't been an issue. But yeah, anyway, in general, yeah, it's like been interesting to try things out on there. And I feel like at this point, yeah, like I have some things I've done that like only work on Zoom. Like I'll just use some of the features of Zoom that will like add in an extra joke here and there and stuff. So that's like kind of interesting to have like stuff that I won't even be able to use like when I'm doing in-person shows. but yeah, I think that definitely helped. But then I was so excited once there were more like outdoor shows and things like that. And I'm definitely, there's a lot going on now with that, and that's been super great. And those can be tough in some ways, but some of them are really fun too. And I'm definitely nervous now with the weather changing in New York, and we'll see how that goes. But for now, yeah, I feel so glad that the community is like, it seems to be really really thriving in some ways in terms of like dealing with a tough situation and trying to make the most of it and putting on shows in like parks and rooftops and trying to be really careful safety wise and everything. So I hope that that keeps happening. But yeah, you know, it's definitely been a tough time for um, me. I guess me in some ways, but yeah, a lot of comedians and venue owners and stuff. And so I really hope that everyone's able to get through it in this, you know, very tough situation. So we'll see.
Would you do you disagree when that guy called you the corny white guy from Wild and Out? Would you also describe yourself as the corny white guy from Wild and Out?
I probably wouldn't put that like on my poster, like to get people
Uh-huh.
to come to the show. But I mean, I do have some like jokes that could be considered corny probably, and I am a white guy that was on Wild and Out. I think I was maybe the longest running white guy on Wild and Out. But
I think you were you and Mikey Day.
yeah, because well, I think yeah, I ended up being on it maybe longer than him only because he went to SNL and has been really killing it there, and so obviously that takes up his time now. But yeah, he's amazing. I got to work with him on a couple of seasons on there, and when he came back and stuff, and doing a rap battle with him the first season I was on was so
The
much
white
fun.
guy battle.
Yeah, he's like a genius at sketch writing and sketch performing, and it was so fun to see how his mind works and to get to like work with him was really cool. And he was always seemed so perfect for SNL, so it's great to see him every week on there, just like his range of characters, and like he has such a good handle on like how to make a good comedy sketch, which is so hard to do. So yeah, I'm so happy for him, you know. And yeah, I guess there've been a couple of people that have worked with on there that went on to places like that, and it's always like really exciting to see that for sure.
I did the math. You made appearances in 10 seasons of Wild and Out. Were you there for the Azalea Banks episode?
Yeah.
Can you kind of like I've heard Timothy DeLegatto's take on it on I think he was on like the No Jumper podcast.
Okay.
But can you kind of like because like I mean if you haven't seen the episode, Azalea Banks came on. It was a couple years ago already. It just looked like she didn't know what the show was.
Yeah, I kind of remember it vaguely because I don't think I was even on that episode, but I was there taping other episodes that day, and I think I watched it or watched all or most of it from the audience and or the green room or something. And yeah, it definitely got really intense. I think yeah, I mean, I think they ended up airing it pretty much like most of what happened. I mean, they might have to edit down for a time, but and you know, Wild and Out will often tape like for 2 hours, and then
Yeah.
the final episode with commercials is probably like 20 minutes or something. So the format of the show is kind of designed to like make everyone look good, and like if you know if a joke doesn't work, it probably won't be in the final edit. Even if it does work, it probably won't because there's only so much time. So you really have to like work really hard to make like do something that's memorable enough to like be left in. And I think there were some like uncomfortable moments where like someone like made fun of her, and she like didn't really take it as like the way that it was intended, hopefully as like a
DC Youngfly
comedic
did
thing.
that.
Yeah, so yeah, and he's like super good at roasting and super funny,
Incredible roast.
um yeah, it seemed like she maybe took it as like took it really personally. And
She took it out of context, so it looked like too, because I think he said something about like how we want a, Cardi B.
oh sure, yeah. And so Yeah, and I think the original plan, I think they were gonna just edit out anything that was like awkward or uncomfortable, and but then I think she was like started like talking about it a lot on social media and complaining about the show, and so I think a lot of people were like really curious about what she was talking about and what went down, and so they ended up, I think, just showing some of those awkward moments, which I don't know if that's what you wanted or not, like, but a lot of guests, I don't know if they understand that, like, for at least for this specific show, it's like they can always like edit things out there. I think there's like some guests that had like did stuff that didn't work and they just cut it out and they ended up looking really good. So yeah, a lot of times it's like even when stuff doesn't work on there, it's like not a big deal because no one will necessarily see it. But yeah, I guess if you call attention to it, and then that's one way to make people want to see it, I guess, which I don't know if that's the best move for that guest.
Were there, because I feel like I remember watching certain cast members a while back who were only there for like 3 or 4 episodes. Were there people that were like
Yeah.
auditioned or brought on and then like they just underperformed or like just they didn't fit with the mold and then they were kind of just like and then they were like let go?
There was definitely a lot of people that came and went, and there's definitely a lot of people that I think are like so funny and talented that didn't necessarily like end up doing the show for very long, and there's definitely people I felt bad for that either only got to do one episode and then were like asked to leave after that, or did all of the rehearsals and then ended up not making it into an episode because it was overbooked with other people. That it's definitely a very competitive environment, and so even once you're on the show, you start rehearsing, and then it feels like you're still auditioning to see like how many episodes you can be in, and then even once the episodes start airing, like each moment of that on the episode, you feel like you're kind of still auditioning to do well enough to get into another episode. And a lot of times like you don't know which episodes you're going to be in until like the night before, so you're just there for a couple of weeks and you get paid each time you do an episode, but you don't know how many that could be. And so you might get the email and you're not on the next day and you're like, oh, did I like do something wrong? I mean, it usually has nothing to do with you as a person, but I mean, I think there's so many factors, but yeah, I mean, there are so many people I loved on the show who ended up not being there for very long, but I thought were like so funny. But but for whatever reason, and yeah, often not because of any lack of talent or anything, just it's just like yeah, it's like a very specific weird mix of like improv and other things that you have to do, and sometimes they'll like switch things up last minute, and so it's like definitely a lot of pressure. And I know I've like felt like, I don't know, it can like I've dropped the ball before in there and stuff, but it's always like just a hustle of like trying to like adapt in the moment to like whatever the next thing is and just do the best you can. So I feel super lucky that I got to do a bunch of seasons and episodes, but at the same time, yeah, it's like yeah, it's not for everyone. And I didn't necessarily always agree either with the decisions of who was in what episodes or how many episodes, but it's that's kind of out of my control or most people's control. And so and especially like not knowing how many I was going to do, I always just tried to like think about that as the least I could, which was hard to do. Um but I feel like the important thing is, I think like I heard like Rob Schneider say something about SNL where like his friends would always tell him like you should be in more sketches or whatever, and he's like he learned eventually that it was like it doesn't really matter how many you're in, but just that like you do the best job you can in like that one you're in, or however often you're in one. And so I feel like that's just kind of good advice for anything like that, where since that's so out of your control, you just want to like when you do show up, you just want to really try to make the most of it and make the biggest joke or whatever it is that you can do for that situation. and then hope people that notice over time that you've done well consistently. But a lot of that is like just under your not out of your control. So so yeah, it's definitely is like a comedy boot camp, and I do feel like I learned a lot of things of like thinking on my feet and stuff that I'm hopefully able to use in other situations. But it's yeah, it's just one of those things that you just have, it's always going to be a learning experience, and from moment to moment. And yeah, however long you've been doing comedy, I guess there's no way to know what's going to work when you're working on something new or doing something new. So so yeah, I think I'm glad I got to do it. I think it helps the other kinds of comedy I do to get to like have to deal with these so many different types of comedy games and stuff. And then I don't know. Yeah, I'd love to do more stuff like that. But yeah, it's I don't know. I feel like I'm rambling now. But yeah, I think that was the answer.
Did
Hopefully.
you, well, being like one of the longest running cast members, did you feel for like the first couple of seasons you were kind of looking over your shoulder? Because like, especially because the show, like when it began in the first, like before it got rebooted, they only had like 5 or 6 people on each team. By the time you left, like they had like 10, 12 people on a team. So like it definitely got bigger, which
Yeah.
say what you want about that, I guess. But did you feel like you were looking over your shoulder to kind of keep your spot like as a cast member?
That's a good question. Yeah, not necessarily. I guess I feel like in some ways, I mean, actually from the beginning, it like the main thing was that I was I was always like kind of surprised that I even got to do the show, in a sense that like I came from like a background where I was like doing stand-up comedy, and I'd been doing a lot of improv as well just for fun on the side. But I never expected that to lead to anything, and I certainly like didn't expect to get to audition for this show. And it I felt really lucky about that, because it was like after America's Got Talent, I was like a little depressed for a while. I didn't feel like I did that well in my last time on there, and then I didn't really feel like I had any other opportunities. I didn't have any kind of like representation of agents and managers and stuff, and I was just kind of like doing like kind of small scale gigs and stuff around the Midwest. But then I got a random call to like audition for the show, and then a call back. And since I didn't have much else, I just tried to like throw myself into it. And I was definitely scary, the auditions, in terms of like not expecting to get on, because I think I just felt like and the producers said, I think they were like, just felt like it didn't really make sense for me to be on the show, or that I was like low energy. And I had a few producers tell me, they were like, yeah, I predicted that you would not make it on the show, like when we were hiring you, like to the other producers and stuff, because I was just like a very different, lower energy style and like personality than a lot of people on the show who are like super high energy
Yeah.
or like way cooler and stuff. And so so it was I know I was like kind of just like um very happy and relieved just to be cast on the show, and then to get to do a season, and then another and another, and so on. And so yeah, so I tried to never take it for granted. And I guess it definitely got tougher over time, when there were, like you mentioned, there were like more people on an episode per team and that kind of thing. I think it was definitely harder to make it like through the editing process. Like I think there was one episode I did a few seasons in where there were a lot of people on each team, and the show still only lasts 20 minutes. So I think I did like something that I thought was funny in each segment of the show, and that like got laughs from the audience. And then I watched the episode, and every single thing I'd done had been cut out, so it looked like I didn't talk at all during the episode. And that wasn't like any fault of anyone in terms of editing or anyone. It's just it's just the thing of like, if you do have like 8 to 12 people on each team, which I guess would be like 15 or 20 people, and then each segment is like 3 minutes
Yeah.
long. I mean,
Quick.
you only have time for like maybe 3 or 4 people to do a joke. And then if one joke is by a celebrity, or like or something that the producers like or the editor, you know, it's like that's anyway. So so yeah, that's just kind of like out of your control. But at the same, but that never really like bothered me too. Like I think I just tried to focus on like doing the best job I could and not worrying too much about the results in terms of how it looked on TV or that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a very fast paced thing. So there's definitely like, there were plenty of moments where I was like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I don't know what to do for this game, or like, it was just a matter of like, yeah, just trying to think about everything and practice like improv tricks as much as I could to like be prepared for anything. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. But yeah, overall, I feel like it was just like a super fun experience. The audiences were always really fun, and I made a lot of great friends in the cast and like behind the scenes as well. The producers and everyone that works on that show is usually like super nice. And so yeah, as much as it was like there was like maybe a competitive vibe, it was also like I think in general everyone wanted to make each other look good, and they bill it as like you're competing for points, but really everyone just wanted to be funny
There's a
in a way that
camaraderie.
made each other look good. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I didn't feel like there was too much of that in terms of like worrying about it. It would probably be easy to fall into that, but I feel like in general it was just kind of a good opportunity to just make friends and just kind of try to do what you could do the best, and then kind of appreciate other people's styles, which were like all so unique on that show. And so yeah, I mean, it was definitely a very very unique experience, and I'm glad I got to do it. So yeah.
Well, so for me, because I've seen, I've been watching Wild Knife for a couple of years, seen many episodes. You had
Yeah.
some of like the best roast burns like I
Oh, thank you.
remember, and I remember like at a certain point, people kind of, especially in like the roast battle at the end of the episode, which was in every episode, people would kind of get really excited when they saw you like getting up there because they're like, I don't know where this is going, but it's gonna be good. But I need to talk about this before I forget. You are, to my knowledge, the only Wild and Out cast member to kiss a Wild and Out girl on air.
Oh, I don't think that's true, actually. I think other people have done that. A few other people have done that, actually.
Well, okay. So I thought you were the only one, but I felt like
I think Lauren and Roscoe maybe.
so
Uh,
you might be the only
there's
male.
a few
You might be
people.
the only male.
I think there's some other males. I think Hidman Holla, maybe Darren Brand, maybe. I don't know. I feel like there were definitely other
What
people
led
that.
to that moment though? Like what what made you decide to do that? Because you were playing Let Me Hollow, just like throw a pickup line at a
Yeah.
Wild and Out girl. So what was like, I'm gonna go do this pickup line?
Well, I can definitely, yeah, in that case, I can talk more a little bit about behind the scenes because, in general, yeah, like you mentioned, like a lot of my favorite stuff with roasting and stuff, I was super proud of, and a lot of it was like kind of improvised in the moment, or most of it in terms of the rap battles and stuff. But at the same time, yeah, for the thing you're talking about, I was like, that was something where I was like, okay, I don't want to like, cross anyone's boundaries or anything like that. And so that was like a joke I kind of was talking to the producers about in advance. And I think it was like, they had some input on it. And
You wanted to make sure the joke was like acceptable.
well, yeah, not so much the joke, but just like, cause I wanted to I wanted to run it past the person that I was kissing, because otherwise, I feel like that would be super inappropriate.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so, yeah, so that was something that me and the producers talked about ahead of time. And then we also talked to her about it and made sure that that was something that she was okay with and on board with and everything. And so that was, so there's like a brief like kiss and everything, but at the same time, yeah, that's something I would, yeah, I hope that people didn't watch that and think that they should do that in real life, because that's definitely
I hope not.
yeah, that was just for yeah, for sure, like spectacle or whatever. That's probably the wrong word, but I wanted to be really clear that with her ahead of time to make sure that she was cool with it, and she was. And so
You seem very surprised
so yeah.
though. Still, like even after you kissed her, she seemed to be like really surprised you did it.
Yes, and that's why I want to make this really clear that we talked about it ahead of time. Because I guess that was the acting choice she wanted to make, and she decided that ahead of time. But yeah, I would definitely never do that if it was not, something I ran past the person or that she was on board with. But yeah, I ended up yeah, the being, I guess the crowd enjoyed it and everything,
Oh yes, both teams enjoyed it. Everyone enjoyed it.
but but yeah, I was definitely a little hesitant because I was like, even her being on board, I was like, I hope, and based on her reaction too, I was like, I hope everyone knows that this is, this is like a this is an acting thing in this case, and I don't want people, as much as it is normal typically an improvised show, there's like elements of preparation, and so
Yeah.
I thought it was fun and funny at the time, but I don't know if I probably wouldn't do that kind of thing now, like that as a joke now.
Right.
And if I did, or like I'm saying about this, yeah, I just, in that case, yeah, I just want it to be really clear that it's something that you always want to run past the person ahead of time. So I hope no one like was watching that and was like, oh, I should like try that line in real life.
I hope not.
But anyway, but in general, yeah, yeah, it was, I don't know, the show's a lot of fun, and it is fun to get to like try out more improvised stuff too, which usually they don't know what you're gonna say, but I guess that was the exception in that case because it was like a little more elaborate.
Well, I don't want people leaving, like watching or listening to this, like getting the wrong idea. Um, but like it's not a scripted show. Like, I mean, obviously, like there are
Yeah,
elements
most
of
of
it.
it,
There are elements that are prepared,
yeah.
but like as a whole, it's not a scripted show. And I know that's always like the like YouTube comment you get, and like people are always like, oh, they're too good for it to be scripted. So like, just how much of it would you say? Just not even you as a general thing. Like, would you say that most of what you see on there is improv?
Yeah, I would say most of what you see on there is improv. There's definitely like times where, like for a rap battle, you can see who's on the other team. So there's moments where you might think of like your first line or two, or like have some ideas, but at the same time, you want to be able to improvise. And I think my favorite things I've done on the show were like truly improvised, and were often like in the middle of a rap battle. Like, so in some cases I felt like underprepared, and I would say something that was maybe didn't get that big of a laugh or went okay, and that, but then they would say something back to me, and then I was able to like come up with a comeback based on that. In some cases, I mean, that doesn't always happen, um but yeah, I felt like that was like one of the most fun moments of the show, when like you're able to like come up with something that like addresses what they said and incorporate it into like a comeback. I'm talking, I guess, which is, I'm hoping is funny, although now that the way I'm describing it is like the least funny thing I've heard anyone say, but the way that I'm talking about it. But yeah, so, and we would like practice the games and stuff. So I think sometimes someone would like come up with a line in rehearsal that they'd try on the show. But at the same time, every crowd is different and every situation is different once you're taping. And so, yeah, at least for me, like sometimes I would come up with ideas ahead of time, but then try to like top it if I could think of something funnier before the moment, or in the moment. So yeah, it was kind of a mix of like preparing the types of stuff you want to do, but then yeah, a lot of my favorite stuff on the show is really just like stuff people came up with in the moment. So yeah.
So I want to go back to that. I do want to circle back, but I do also want to talk about something that's been like kind of talked about a lot and disputed, because while that has done reboots as well, is the
Yeah.
money behind it. So
Okay.
I can't remember who it was, but one of the like original cast members who was on for like 6 or 7 seasons, like the first one, and came back for the second reboot for a little bit. He
Yeah.
said that the salary dropped a lot.
Uh-huh.
Without going into too much, like you don't need to obviously like say too much here, but like, how did the show pay? I mean, it paid per episode, but like if you were on an episode, how did the show pay?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think I did hear about that with other cast members that had been there on like the original 4 seasons, which were in like the early 2000s. And from what I understood, there were times where they were like making a lot of money, but when I joined, that was my only reference point. And so for me, it felt like I was paying well compared to, I mean, I guess I wasn't doing a lot before that. So it was, and now I might not think of it as that much, um, but yeah, it would pay you per episode. And, it definitely wasn't a ton, but it could like usually, get you, like for me, get me through a few months or something. And then it did kind of get better other times where I think a few seasons in, one of the producers recommended that I use like an entertainment lawyer that he knew, and I started working with her, and she was really great. And I think she
Did you like negotiate like at a certain point, did you start like negotiating your contracts?
Yeah, I think at one point, it wasn't until a few seasons in, but at one point, yeah, I think I had a lawyer negotiate it, and so that was kind of nice to be making more money, but at the same time, yeah, I felt like extra pressure at that point to
To
like where it was like
perform to
I have to,
to
yeah,
a
I was like I
standard?
feel like I have to step it up to
Right, right.
justify it, like because they, everyone often feels like it feels like everyone's replaceable in some ways on that show. So you're like, okay, if they're paying me more and I'm not, like, I really have to do my best here, or they might be like, well, there's people that we can get for cheaper at this point.
So did
So
this did it get did the salary get better once they went from MTV2 to MTV?
not a lot changed there, I don't think, but I think for individuals over time, or I guess everyone had like their own deal, but yeah, I think the people that I started with over time, like we were able to negotiate for a little bit of a better deal. Um, but um, but yeah, it was always like nice, and it like helped a lot with, you know, me like just surviving in the world of comedy. But at the same time, yeah, I'd never tried to like rely completely on it. And one cool thing was that the whole season would tape in like maybe 2 or 3
Oh yeah,
weeks.
really fast.
So it was nice that you had the rest of the year, and in my case, the rest of the year I could like focus on doing college gigs or try to just. I loved comedy, so I just wanted to do stand up the rest of the year, whether I was getting paid or not, and doing as many gigs as I could, but also just working on new material and doing other shows for fun. And so yeah, I always felt like it was like a great like just cherry on top of, because I already was really enjoying doing stand up, but yeah, while that definitely helps me get by, but I never wanted to like rely exclusively on any one thing, and would have loved to keep doing it for a long time, but yeah, I guess now who knows what'll happen, whether it'll ever come back and everything.
What would you say was your like what has been your biggest accomplishment in your career so far? Would it be like Adam Devine's house party when you made an appearance on there? Maybe it's like Steve, like when you were on Stephen Colbert, that was your first like late night show appearance.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, those were both a lot of fun. Adam Devine's house party was definitely one of the most fun weeks of my life
It
in terms
looks
of
so
shooting it.
fun.
Because yeah, I mean, you get to like they fly you to Hawaii, and I'd never been there. Just being in Hawaii was amazing. It's so beautiful, and I had a little bit of downtime to like explore and hike and check out the beaches and the views. I think they shot like Jurassic Park there, and it was just very like scenic and beautiful. So even just the location was great, but then you get to like hang out with all these like awesome comedians, and like the Adam Devine was so nice to everyone, and the producers and the writer was really cool, and the guest stars, I mean, were great that episode. And so yeah, it was like so much fun because I haven't done a ton of acting in general. I've done like small things with like student, you know, like small budget films and like a little bit of voiceover stuff and small things here and there. But in general, that was like it was so fun to get to like act with these people that were like so funny to me, and like have it so professionally shot, and like they have like all these funny scenes they like give you
Oh,
lines for.
Adam Devine. That show was so funny when it was on TV.
Yeah, Adam is like such a nice guy and so brilliant as like an actor because he commits like so hard, like emotionally, physically, and like he just like sells the bit in a way that's like so funny but so genuine and vulnerable at the same time, and just is like so entertaining to watch. And so to get to like do scenes with him was like amazing. And then they let you do stand up on the episode too, so it was like, you know, in front of like this great crowd. And so it was just like everything about it was just such a good experience. And yeah, I mean, I hope people see that episode because like I think the writer and Adam who came up with the story, it was like so funny to me. And I don't know where people can watch it or how many
Comedy
people.
Central. You can watch it on the Comedy Central
Yeah.
website. If you have
Oh, good.
if you have
Okay.
a cable provider, you can just do it through there. I mean, yours might be on YouTube. I
Okay.
believe it's season 3. I just watched it recently.
Yeah, I think it was
Season
a
3,
pilot.
episode
It was the
1.
first episode of season 3. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you just have a cable provider, you can watch the whole episode, or any episode of Adam
Yeah,
Devine.
I definitely recommend every episode. I mean, that episode was
Such a
so
funny
fun.
show.
But in general,
He's such a good
I
writer.
think I watched every episode and it was so funny because they were able to do this like whole through line of a like a sitcom, and yet also give comedians like stand up within the storyline, and then they're playing themselves in really funny moments. So I would highly recommend. Yeah, it was one of my favorite shows. I think it's definitely an underrated show in general as a whole. And I felt super lucky to be a part of it. I was already, I think, a big fan of it before I got to do it. And yeah, such a fan of Adam Devine in general because he's, yeah, so talented. And he was, he and the writers, Scotty Landis, who's also very brilliant. He wrote the screenplay for Ma and a lot of other things. But yeah, they would like call us up, like you could tell they really gave a shit about like comedians and wanting to give these people like this cool opportunity. And like a lot of times like you might not deal with the star of the show that much, but like they would individually call each comedian and like tell them like, you're booked, like you're going to Hawaii,
Was there an audition process?
yeah, so I think when I auditioned, I did a set at the Stand Comedy Club at its original location, which has moved now. And so this was probably in like 2015 when I auditioned. And I think my audition is actually on YouTube. It's probably not described that way, but on my YouTube channel, I have an older 2015 stand-up set that was like at the Stand. It's like 7 or 8 minutes long, and it was a really fun crowd and stuff. And so I think I just put the stand-up clip on there. And then the Adam Devine set was like a variation on that, but I switched out jokes here and there. So it's somewhat of a different set. But yeah, it was just a stand-up. I think based on the stand-up, they kind of booked people and then kind of wrote scenes that incorporated them as well. And so yeah, I mean, that's so rare to get to do something that fun and like well written and constructed in so many ways that, I mean, and when you do get to do that, it's usually just the stand-up part or just the acting or one thing like that at a time. So yeah, so the fact that they were doing that as like a showcase to comedians for acting and writing, it's like, and to maybe give people their first acting job and things like that, that was like really cool. So yeah, I'm definitely, yeah, so happy I got to do that.
Did something change with your swag like as the show went on? Because I've watched like season 13, like one of the last seasons you really had a like, because you came back last season for a couple episodes, but like season 13, which is
Yeah.
the last season, you had like you were in a lot of episodes. And I watched like season like 6, and I was like, dang, like Jacob has like a lot more swag right now. Did somebody like give you some fashion tips or something, or did you just kind of develop a
Oh,
little more swag as it went on?
oh, that's funny. I still don't know if I know even what swag is, but I guess no. I mean, I think I did get. I think my first season there, I felt like kind of it was so much fun, and like I feel like some of the laughs I got were probably like not because I was funny, but maybe people laughing at me or people being like,
Ooh,
"Why is this
interesting.
guy?" Like not in a mean way, but just be like, it's just kind of there was like something funny about the fact that I was there as like this nerdy white guy who was like kind of naive and not very like socially like adept or anything. And so it was just kind of a funny situation on its own. And then I mean, I tried to be as funny as I could within that. But like, for example, like my first season, I think there was a game where like you were supposed to like improvise punchlines to like whatever they threw you. And so like one of the topics they threw you was like things thirsty people say. And I literally took it
Water.
as like water. So I think my joke was about like something about like
It's
yeah, I'll
album.
listen to Nick Cannon's album, anything. I just want
I
some
just
water.
watched that clip.
And I actually didn't know that it meant something else, and they didn't edit it out because I guess the joke worked,
So
but
funny.
I wasn't even aware of what it was supposed to mean, and so that was just kind of how out of touch I was in the beginning, and the first season, but it ended up being like so much fun, and yeah, it was like kind of a dream job, and then I think my second season, I was like I feel like I struggled a little bit because I think I was like went into it maybe thinking like, oh, it went well last time, so it'll go well this time. And I kind of forgot like you kind of have to like put so much work into it, not and so I felt like I like struggled a little bit that season. I was just kind of in a weird place where it went fine for me, but it was also like I feel like I was just just kind of in a weird headspace. And so after that, I tried to like just try to get better at it as much as I could each year. And eventually, yeah, I think the first year I was like, would just wear whatever Wild and Out t-shirt, but eventually I did get like, from being around other cast members and stuff, I think I did learn a lot about, I didn't necessarily learn a lot, but it was like interesting to see like how seriously people took like fashion and things like that. And I got a little bit more into like trying to choose outfits that I liked and stuff, but I don't know if I ever quite figured that out, but it was definitely like kind of fun to get to like go to this huge wardrobe department, and there were all these people that would like be like give you like a selection of what kind
Did they
of
help you? Did they help you pick out clothes, or were they just there to show you what you can choose?
yeah, they would help you pick out stuff. They would have ideas, and then in the beginning I would be like, yeah, that sounds good, let's just throw something on, and which maybe is probably the better thing to do because then you can focus on the comedy. But by the end I think I got like probably a little too into like, oh, let's choose some like cool shoes that go with these this outfit or like other things. But yeah, no, they always had like yeah, I was just listening to something on the paradox of choice and how you can have like decision fatigue from so now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I probably put a little like overthinking into like choosing some outfits, but for the most part it's always like a variation on just a Wild and Out shirt and stuff. But then they have like different sweaters and hoodies and shoes and jeans and things, and you're like, just trying to figure out what to wear is like part of the episode, part of the day, I guess. But yeah, it was fun to yeah, get to do that. Felt like yeah, playing pretend or something, to get to put on a costume.
I feel like the other cast members, especially the like, obviously most cast members are male, but mainly male cast members. When I say this, I feel like they tried to make it look so easy, but you could see that there was like that, like they cared about fashion. That's all it was, and like there's like a lot of thought put into like what Wild and Out item am I going to be wearing, but they tried to make it look easy at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many cool people on there that are able to pull off all kinds of
Oh
cool
yeah,
stuff, that and a lot of it which I would never be able to pull off, I think. But yeah, like a few seasons I think I just started trying to buy like Jordans and stuff, and then I got there and I realized they said like I had the wrong kind of Jordans because they were like the team Jordans and not the kind he wore. And I like, it was just like a slow process of learning like, oh, like
yeah, because
the
they're
first
only
season I think I
so
was
many
wearing
Jordans.
like A6 running shoes, which were like probably not considered cool, although they I think are great for actual functionality. And I just learned over time like, oh, there's like you get more credibility in certain places if you wear other things. But I still don't really know much about any of that. But I try to I have maybe a slightly better shoe collection than 7 years ago, but
That's good.
still a work in progress.
Yeah, I only found out. I feel like I think from what I've seen, like certain Jordans are for like certain Jordans are still for basketball, like that's still part of it, but certain are for just wearing like out in the world. But
Well,
let's talk.
yeah, the problem is now, like, and then it's like it's also important that they're not like, that they're in good shape. And so now I have like some where I'm like, oh, I should wear these because they look cool, but then I never wear them because I'm like, I don't want to like get them dirty. So
Oh, it's too much
I'm
work.
like, why do I have these and I don't even wear them? But it's a whole thing anyway.
Yeah. Let's talk about your comedy album, Unemotional Roller Coaster. It's available on all major streaming platforms.
Mhm.
When did you release it?
So this actually came out recently. I'm looking at the calendar now, and it came out on October 2nd. So a few days ago, really.
10 days ago.
Yeah. And yeah, so it just came out. It's now on Sirius XM. It's on Pandora. I think you can listen to the whole album through this one link on my social media on Pandora, but it's now also on, if you have like, it's on Spotify, it's on iTunes and Amazon Music, which if you like it, you can rate and review it there or thumbs up the tracks on Pandora and make a station there, I think. But anyway, but yeah, and then it's being played on like Sirius XM and stuff. And so there's a few places to get it. I think I do have a comedy special version of it with a few camera angles and stuff. And that's on my Patreon page, which is I think like $5 a month for that and other bonus videos. But basically, yeah, it's like an hour long album. I think the Sirius XM version is about 40 minutes because it's like squeaky clean. And so I just took out anything that wasn't squeaky clean for that, so it can reach more people on clean channels and things like that. But yeah, it's about an hour long and it's yeah, I'm really proud of it. I was super happy with how it turned out. I got super lucky that that comedy club is amazing and the crowd that night especially was super nice. And so and the other comedians opening up, set up the show really well. And so and I got to like run the set a few times that week on the road doing shows at the Draft House in DC and other places before that. And so yeah, I was so happy with how it worked out. And I actually taped it I think last summer, like in 2019, and then just kind of took a long time before it was like ready to release with working out all the details and stuff. But I'm so happy with like how it turned out, and I really appreciate all the stuff. Yeah, for people have been sending me nice messages and stuff, and I appreciate that. But yeah, it's been fun. It's basically yeah, my favorite jokes from my first like 12 or 13 years of doing comedy, it's and so it's kind of a mix of stuff I was working on for a long time, and then like newer stuff that kind of tied in with it, and I tried to like make it all fit together. And I'm glad that there's like kind of a home for that stuff now. And so I'm kind of working on other new stuff now, but I'm really glad that yeah, glad it worked out. It was with 800 Pound Gorilla Records, and they were really fun to work with. So yeah, I hope people will check it out. And yeah, I had wanted to do an album for a while. I think sometimes with Wild and Out, it was like tough to figure out when to schedule it because then that could come up sometimes semi last minute, and it would be harder to like keep focusing on stand up during that because you want to like bring everything you can to Wild and Out when you're working on it. Um, but uh, but yeah, there was a time, yeah, once I had a little bit more of a stretch where could just do like a bunch of stand up gigs in a row. I was really glad I was able to schedule a time to record it, and I feel happy with how it turned out. So I don't know. Yeah, I hope people will listen to it and enjoy it, and yeah.
Any bits, I'll call them, or tracks that you highly recommend people listening to in
Oh, that's a good question. There's a few tracks that I put out a video version of on social media. So I'm putting out clips on like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram and probably Twitter and Facebook too. But yeah, so some of those ones I put out were about like jokes about my roommates that I had at the time, or jokes about therapy and breakups and things like that, and I was definitely happy with that. But there's a few ones that I'm not sure if they'll be out there yet when this airs. But yeah, jokes about high school and awkward interactions and things like that. Those are probably some of my favorites, and yeah. And my joke about certified mail is on there, which I'm proud of. And so I guess any of that stuff. Um, but but yeah, in general, yeah, I was happy with how it turned out. It was a really yeah, it was a fun night, and I actually did an album release show a week or two ago now. I guess, yeah, I guess it'd be like a week and a half ago, and that was kind of cool actually because I was just gonna like release the album at this rooftop show that New York Comedy Club is putting on a rooftop now, and while I was there, actually, Michael Che and Chris Rock showed up, and Chris Rock ended up doing a drop-in set right before I did my set at the end of the show, and it was a couple of days before his. It was the Thursday before his SNL monologue, and so that was like really fun to watch him work on stuff. I've always been like a huge Chris Rock fan, and of course Michael Che is amazing. He was like kind of there as a head writer, I guess, to maybe help him give him pointers and stuff. And that was like so fun to watch, just to see Chris Rock live for the first time and doing that material from the monologue, but also like doing a longer version of it and like jokes that didn't necessarily make it into like the Titan version that was on Saturday Night Live that week. And so yeah, so that ended up being like a big highlight recently, that, you know, I just happened to be there for, and, you know, really it had little to do with me, but it was exciting to get to watch that. And the crowd was in such a good mood after that that I felt like it was a fun show for me because they'd already, you know, seen something amazing. So it kind of took the pressure off me in a way. But anyway, so yeah, so that was fun, and now I'm just so happy that the album is out there, and that people are listening, hopefully, and yeah, I hope people will check it out and let me know what they think via, I guess, social media and things like that. And for now, yeah, I'll try to be just like writing newer material. I guess yeah, and doing these Zoom and outdoor shows and things, and I might do another taping for something soon. But in general, yeah, just trying to stay busy.
Well, thank you, Jacob, for coming on to my podcast. Do appreciate you coming on here. You can stream Jacob's new comedy album, Unemotional Roller Coaster, on all major streaming platforms, or you can just go to his website, jacobwilliamscomedy.com, and I believe his social media is just Jacob Williams.
Oh, it's MR Jacob Williams for like Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and then I think there's like a Facebook page, comedian Jacob Williams.
Okay, so
and I have a YouTube channel, which should be under my name if you look it up, and that'll have clips as well.
Yeah, his YouTube channel is under Jacob Williams. Thank you for coming on, and thank you to all my listeners. Anything else to add?
No, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed it who was listening, and yeah, have a good one. Thanks.
Yep. All right, everyone, stay safe.